Welcome to the World United. Welcome to the World United.
Então, muito bem-vindo, Matheus. Jorge?
Bienvenido, Mateo Castro. Bienvenido. Él nos acompañará el día de hoy con el
Apresentação.
tema La gran conexión humana. Él es diseñador creativo senior en los estudios Universal, escritor, profesor, conferenciante y miembro de Standing with Boys, una organización humanitaria. Pues bien, vamos a pasar a ver la presentación de Matthew.
Matthew Casto, father, friend, professional, and humanitarian, the founder of the Great Human Connection. Matthew is the senior art production designer for Universal Studios and serves on the board of Standing with Boys Humanitarian. He is a writer, educator, public speaker, performer, and visionary. Meet Matthew. About 7 months ago, I sat in an airport in Beijing waiting for a flight, and I got a text from my son. He was worried. I was supposed to meet up with him in Madrid. We were going to catch a flight together to Ghana, of all places, and spend some time together. And he was worried that if he hopped on a train and arrived in Madrid, that I wasn't going to be there. And I kind of flippantly assured him that everything was going to be okay. I said, don't worry about it. I've traveled for years. Everything is fine. This global pandemic thing you're hearing about in the news is okay. You know, don't worry about it. And so I got on a plane and we met up in Madrid. And I didn't really realize how much my words of comfort meant to him. But I also didn't realize truly how much our lives were going to change from that day forward. You know, we did go to Africa. We spent like almost 10 days together doing humanitarian work, and he returned back to Spain to go back to school, and I went to the United States to carry on with some business. And it was 6 weeks later that the global pandemic was just fully blossoming around the world, and our families were spread. My family were spread. My 6 children was spread across 4 continents, and we were wondering how, as a family, we were going to manage through this critical time. I was also really worried about my work. I was in the process of building a theme park in Beijing. I work for Universal Studios as a designer and as an art production director. And I was really worried that we were going to actually be able to pull off this amazing project amidst all this uncertainty. You know, the office had already reported closures of Shanghai Disney and reported shutdowns in Florida of theme parks, and I could only imagine what was going to happen to my industry, and it was so uncertain. But I had to go back. I had to go back to China and take a hold of this and join with my colleagues, and I really didn't know what that looked like. And so in all of my nervousness and in the midst of all my uncertainty, I decided that I would do what I do every year, which was do one of my long-term fasting. You know, for about the last 15 years, I've practiced the art and the science of fasting for a long period of time. Initially, I started this as kind of a bet. I bumped into a friend in a hotel one time that I hadn't seen for years, and I invited him for dinner and he declined. He said that he was in the process of fasting, and I was curious about what that looked like, and I asked to go to have a drink with him, and he said, okay, I can. I'm going to only drink water. And we shared an evening together, and he explained to me what he was doing, and I was curious, so I decided that I would try it. And initially I just did it as a challenge, but that challenge turned into this beautiful experience where every year I spend a couple weeks of my life abstaining from food and just drinking water. And I've had some amazing experiences over the years, and this year is really no different. I found myself fasting in a way that I'd never had before. You know, I made my way back to Beijing. I knew I needed 2 weeks of quarantine, so I knew that those 2 weeks would be a great time to fast. And as I arrived in Beijing and I realized that life was changed, I got back to my hotel and I was greeted by security guards and hotel staff who, tested my temperature and quarantined my bags or sanitized my bags and got me up to my room and gave me all these protocols about how I couldn't leave my apartment and what I needed to do to, get my clothes clean and all those things. I knew that fasting this time would be really good. And so I embarked on these 2 weeks of fasting, and it was really interesting that during these 2 weeks, I spent a lot of time connecting with family and friends that I hadn't seen for a long time. I connected with my children almost daily, virtually, sending them interesting thoughts and maybe funny memes and trying to motivate them because they were stranded. They were stranded in their homes, and one in the United States, one in Spain, or excuse me, 4 of them in Spain. And my heart was just hurting for not only them, but for the world. Like, I found myself feeling a connection to humanity that I hadn't felt for a long time. And I found myself wanting to not just take care of my own children, but also trying to reach out to people that I hadn't really talked to for a long time and just make sure they were okay. And for the first time in my life, I felt this global compassion, maybe this global empathy that I'd never experienced. I mean, I've always been a community person. I've always been someone that cares about others, but I've never spent a lot of time really connecting on an emotional level. And it was this year during my fasting experience that I felt super close to humanity in a way that I hadn't in a long time. And I think that's what fasting has done for me over the years. It's given me these experiences that have changed me forever. And there's been years where I've fasted for overcoming personal addiction. There's been years that I fasted to improve my own spiritual awareness. There have been years that I've fasted for close family members or friends that were struggling. But this year I fasted for humanity, and I fasted in a way that opened my heart to people that I didn't know, and it's really was beautiful. I pondered a couple things during my fast. One of the things I pondered was this concept of, what if the world fasted? What if every human being fasted for 24 or 48 hours and took the money that they would have saved for eating and gave it to poverty? I thought about, what if the businesses of the world fasted? What if they shut their factories down for 2 weeks and just stop their businesses? What impact would that have on the environment? And I even pondered on this idea of, what if the global leaders just fasted for a week and they just said, okay, we're gonna put our differences aside. We're gonna call and talk to each other in a way that we've never talked to each other before. Just like people reached out to me, just like I reached out to others. And what if we mended bridges just for that short time period? And I know that those what ifs aren't the solutions to our global problems, but I think what ifs are really important. The what ifs are the hope that we need. And I think at this time, during our global challenges, hope is a commodity. It's an item that we all could use more of. I think that's one of the challenges of adulthood. As we grow up, we lose the childlike hope that exists. I have been blessed with having 6 children and witnessing hope for so many years. And that hope of children has kept my hope alive. And I believe that as adults, when we are hit with struggles and challenge, that hope is one of the things that we often lose sight of very first. And hope is such an important and necessary part of the human experience. And for me, my hope was renewed during 2020. I was talking to a friend who he was participating in the aftermath of the bombing of the World Trade Center in New York City, and he shared with me this sentiment. He said, while working tirelessly day and night to support the first responders and the wounded victims, my fear and my terror changed to an an unexplainable empathy and profound compassion. He said, my terror and my concern changed to hope. And I thought about that this last couple months. I thought about how my struggles in this last year, the fact that I've been separated from my children for now almost 9 months, that I'm not sure when I will see them again because I won't be able to travel through the borders, that these struggles have actually turned to an amazing amount of hope. That my concern of life, my struggles, are giving me this just abundant amount of optimism and hope. And I think that that's happening for other people. I'm not alone in this notion that if we connect with humanity, we serve other people selflessly, that it can be a catalyst for permanent change and for hope. I feel different. I know that many of my friends feel different. The global crisis has affected us all in a similar way. And many people, amidst their own struggles, feel more empathetic, more compassionate, and more hopeful. That we have less interest in criticism and fault finding, that we're motivated to find solutions, that we as humanity can be connected in a way that we've never been connected before. Globally, humanity seems committed to supporting one another, being more connected. I'm excited to be alive during this time of great human connection. I'm grateful for my health. I'm genuinely optimistic about the future and the health of humanity. I know that the struggles and concerns that many of us face are far from over, but my family and my community are hopeful. We are motivated to take action. We are ready to join with you, with others, to be part of the great solution. Join us.
Muy bien. Agradecemos a Matthew Casto por su exposición y aquí le presentamos su certificado. Rodrigo, activa tu